But last week we ended by talking about ergonomics, and so what I wanted you guys to do is kind of think about yourselves and like where you are, especially in the situation now. I know I mentioned how at the table I had set up last week that my laptop was at the edge of the table, furthest away from me, and so I am literally like I was like reaching over the table, and it was hurting my skin, and the edge of it was like piercing through it, and it was just harder. So I like needed a keyboard, or I needed to be either able to move it forward closer to me, or needed to have a certain keyboard that will allow me to have some support for my arm as I am typing. So those are changes I could make to for things to be more ergonomic. And we talked about how this is about being safe, being comfortable, having an ease of use, for being productive, and also you can think about things just promoting a more positive environment. Overall that's really what it's about. Because if you are more positive at your workplace, you are going to put more into it. You're going to enjoy it more, and therefore your work can get more out of you. So that's the purpose of it. So I'm expecting that many of you have gone through. This is a short video that the state of Montana put together. A lot of times when people think of ergonomics, they think only of companies where there's like a lot of construction going on and things like that, but it is all over. And last thing we talked about is how um, for us, especially in this generation now, and then especially with things going on, ergonomics is important also with mobile devices. You may have noticed that the sizes and the structure of many devices has changed over the years. This is a part of it, but there is a large number of people that are under the age of 30 that are having issues with their hands, um, carpal tunnel, and some other things. I even heard a case recently of bone. Can't remember the actual term for it, but pretty much it's like the bones deteriorating at a faster rate because they were being used so much. I giggled there. I shouldn't really laugh at that. The ironic part about it is the age, and no pre-genetic disposition for it. It was all because of how often this person was using a mobile device. And you have to think very carefully about when you're using those things too. There are like with the iPads and other tablets, you can buy keyboards with them now that you attach to it. And there are other functions too. So you just have to be aware of what you're doing, and when you're around. If something does feel uncomfortable, don't just like push it off as like, oh, I'll just deal with it. You're like, okay, what can I change about this? Maybe I could change where I'm sitting, or maybe I could change how I'm using this device, or is there something else that I can purchase? And then you may notice that things that even have the term ergonomics on it or are made to be more ergonomical. What happens is they cost more money because the people that create them understand the need for that and how people want to have an ease and a comfort. So I'll tell you a funny story from when I was in college. This girl that I used to tutor actually started a business where she had these portable desks, so to speak. And so what it was, you could attach these things to your desk, and they would stack up to give you tons of shelves, or you could stack them to. You could place them on the desk, so they would stack downwards, kind of hang from it. They could attach from the side. They give you a lot more volume, so you could file away things and store things. Or you could just set it up on its own, and it would be a kind of a makeshift desk. And she made a ton of money off of it because you had any moment in time you could modify it to be your needs for just that day. Um, but she designed it and she made the first prototype, gave it to a company, and then she shot off with it. It was really cool. But I'm sure there are tons of things in your life too, and the reason I'm mentioning that is because there may be things that you notice with the way you do stuff, and you're like, you know what, I feel like this could be safer, or this would make me more comfortable if it was like so. Well, that's a business idea, and you can take that idea and run with it. So CIS is mainly about using information and using computer information systems in order to make better business decisions and to be used in business. So a lot of times when I talk about things such as that example, and you probably will think back to last week, some other things that I mentioned, they're always in regards to business because this course really is in regards to business. Everything with CIS is in regards to how to use it for business. So, all right. Were there any questions about ergonomics? Again, I know we went over it last week, but I didn't want to just up and leave you all with it. Any questions about ergonomics? No? Okay. I noticed that a lot of you actually went ahead and began reflecting on it. So for this section, you'll notice that after each topic, there's a reflection afterwards. So remember, you don't have to reply to anyone else's reflection afterwards. But with these, you can upload a video if you like, or you can or you can type. Your choice. If you do a video, I know many of you are telling me that you're having trouble uploading your videos, and some of us, when we work together, we've been able to figure out what was the issue, or sometimes it wasn't an issue at all. It was just like the speed of your internet or your device. And then other times we weren't able to figure it out, so we've made a workaround. Made a workaround. So don't feel discouraged if something goes awry and you've tried a lot to try to get it fixed. Do exactly what many of you have been doing. Ask your instructor. And so, like I said, I'm here to help. Some of you have said that you tried to email me, and it's not. And when I say some, I'm not saying just one particular person. It really has been more than one. In some of my other classes as well, they tried emailing me things and it hasn't gone through. I'm not sure why that would be happening. It could have to do with stuff that was going on last week with the authentications. But I want to try to get that issue solved as soon as possible because it's very important for me to be able to get your work in. If Canvas isn't accepting things, then we need to fix that. And if it's not, and you're not able to even email it to me, then that's something we definitely need to fix. If any of you are having that situation, and again, it's not just one person, and it's not just in one class, uh, talk to me as soon as you can through email, and we may have to even get on the phone with one another to make sure this gets settled sooner rather than later. So don't feel discouraged about it or think like I did something wrong, because at this point it doesn't make sense for it to just be on you. So, but ergonomics. So some of you have already begun to reply back and answer this, but what I wanted to know was how is your current workspace moving towards a more positive ergonomic environment? So, like for instance, many of you are at home. So if you're at home, how do you have things set up? Kind of like I was talking before. For instance, I have two cabinets that are set up to be kind of like a stand for my monitor, which is actually a TV. And then next to that, I have a desk that has a opening for me to put my legs in. And on the side, it has two shelves. And I have two laptops on that, and then my iPad in front of it. Then I have a table that is catty-cornered to that, so it kind of makes an L shape. And on that table, I have another monitor, my school laptop, and then my laptop that I use for my own personal school work uh, to keep them separated. And then on my wall, I have a gigantic whiteboard where I can write down things that are important to do, and so I can erase them and then add the next thing week by week. That's how I actually plan out my week, everyone, so I can see what's up next. So, um, but when I did this, my main focus was being able to have leg room to move around, uh, and that's because I have some issues with my knees. And then I have, like I said, I had to get a box fan because of AC. Um, so even that would be a part of ergonomics, right? Because I want to be comfortable. And also that's a safety thing, right? I have a mini fridge in my room um, that I'm allowed to. It's really small, and I would have it in my office at school as well. And I don't. It's not like a mini fridge that many people see, like when people go off to college. It's literally a mini fridge, like probably about as uh, tall as an iPad if you had it standing up all the way, and probably not that wide either. But I can put about 6 cans of soda water in it and some other things if I wanted to. So, and that helps me too because it helps me feel more comfortable, and it's more aesthetic to my environment because I spend a lot of time, at work. So I can, pop it open, take a soda water out, and have a good time. But yeah, and I mentioned how even in my workplace at school, I had to get some artwork and things like that and put up in my office because it promoted a positive environment for those around me, even though it didn't do so for myself. But I had to forbear that because for overall productivity, it made things easier for people and it was easier for them to work with me. So that's me. If I was answering the first question, those are things I can talk about. Um, I can talk about my office chair. I used to have like a regular fold chair. in my room, and then I had to change that because I was going to be sitting on it for a long periods of time of the day. So now actually I'm looking for a new one because this one's broken. It doesn't go up and down anymore. It just stays in one stationary position. Um, Frequency of breaks, I try to do 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes, do a stretch or so, just because of, again, I have some bad knees. What designs, what I expect or desire for my future workplace? I think a fun slide would be cool. In the TC building on campus. You're up at the top. You want to get down. You don't have to go downstairs. An elevator. We could just take a slide. I think that would be fun. I'm partly joking, but not really. I'm sure some of you are laughing at home right now. But I think that would be fun. I've actually seen designs of that when I was in college. Someone designed that for one of the buildings. It's kind of like TC, where part of it's down and the other parts like above extended. Um, that was one of the designs, was to add on a slide that will swirl around so people could take it, just to kind of take the edge off throughout the day. So we used to do some things like that too. We were at what are the things like the mini basketball games like you have at Dave and Buster's, where you like shoot like those. We added some to the school, and it was just bought by the students, and so it was owned by the students. We donated to the school, but we said like for it to be maintained there, so students could walk by and play for free, and we post the high scores and stuff on the side with a chalkboard, things like that, just to help promote like a fun atmosphere. So you came to that part of the school, you just were coming to kind of relax and have fun. Yeah, so it just made things a lot easier for people. So, describe the design of a technology that you frequently use and explain how it does or does not meet economic factors. Let's see. Part of the reason I don't have a smartphone is because it does not promote a positive environment to me. Um, my roommate was mentioning this yesterday, how he notices that even like his alarm on his phone, whenever he wakes up, his alarm goes off. The first thing that many Apple products do, and you have to go in and dig around to turn it off, is that they will shoot you some type of news or some type of business or something, and it's not the most pleasant thing to wake up to. Like if you imagine you wake up and you see 6,000 people have died today, it's like I don't want that to be the first thing on my mind when I wake up. Uh, so that's part of the reason. That's a small thing. Reason why I don't have a smartphone. And there is nothing wrong with having a smartphone. I do want to clarify that. For me personally, it does not help my peace, and it does not make my life easier and more comfortable. But for other people, if they had a basic phone, they probably gouge their eyes out from boredom. So it's about what's going to be most comfortable, safe, aesthetic for you. So, and what might you change in the technology design or your body position to avoid injury? Um, I think I would like to have something like a little footstool, maybe. I think that might help. It has the availability to change elevation, so I can help out my knees throughout the day. But other than that, I would like to be back at the school because I feel like that what I had there was a lot more comfortable, and it was away from home, so I could keep the two lives separated a lot easier. Um, so you guys have different things here, and normally in the class, what I would do at this point is have you guys discuss some of this. But I do want to, like I think I told you guys last week, the reason I wanted to go ahead and start talking about ergonomics last week was so that we have enough time this week, because this week usually there's a lot in here, and there are some other things I think many of you would like to discuss more about. But if anyone has anything they want to add or have questions about ergonomics, let's ask now. Because yeah, we have some time so you can talk about it. Anyone?
So ergonomics is basically how you function in your workspace.
Yes. And what things make it easier for you to function in your workspace?
Okay.
Yeah. So like how are things set up? What things have you added that make you feel more positive, make you feel more productive? Um, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Well, it's not like, cause I know some chairs are built with like economics in it. So it's not like uh you buy something, because I know some stuff you can, but you can also set it up for yourself to be that way without having to
Yes.
actually physically buy something.
Yes, that is correct. And actually, like some of those ergonomic chairs, they design them based off of statistics. So they get all this data that says like, okay, what's most comfortable for most people? Well, you may not fit in that 95% confidence interval. Like you may not be a part of that 95% range, and that data may have only been for like maybe they did it for the whole US, and you may not be in the US, or it may have been over a certain area in the US. So maybe they didn't get enough data appropriately. So you could get an ergonomic chair. And I have one friend that did this actually happen. His sister bought him one of those chairs for Christmas one year, and it was for because he used to play video games a lot too, and so she got like the best one that was like $200 something. It had lights going in it, everything. He was all excited. He got in it, and he just like was super uncomfortable. He hated playing games in it. And he actually made some modifications to it himself just so he could be more comfortable. Most of it was with the headrest that was attached. He found out he could detach it, and then he was able to add something else in that made him a lot more comfortable. But yeah, it's about you making it more comfortable for yourself. And then there are things at jobs that are being done to make things more comfortable, because sometimes people are at office, they think they should just sit all day and they think it's better for them. Well, it's not. Some companies have gone as far as to say that everyone has to take these mandatory stretch breaks, and they all have an alarm or something go off. We tried this at my old company for like a while, and then people got annoyed with it and told them that it was distracting their work. But they added these Veridesk, which allow you to pretty much you can pull your laptop up and then you stand, and now it's at standing position. You can type. We have at our school, I've seen this at others too, where they have treadmill desks, and so you can walk on the treadmill as you work. And it's just to promote a more healthier environment. At my job, one thing we did was because of the whole stretch break thing not working out too well and it was distracting. We had a walk hour, and it really didn't even take an hour to walk, but we had a mile that we mapped out from our location that went around through the local neighborhood and came back to our office. Some of us would go the adventure bound and would take it a little longer, but we took a longer break. But we added that in so people would actually get outside, and so it wasn't just a break of we're going to stretch so we can work so that everyone's legs can be standing up so we don't have any injuries that way. But no, it actually got people's minds to like breathe, and they got to network and see other people. So there are things like there are other ways to use ergonomics to help that aren't just like with you in your one position at work and not just buying a bunch of things. Yeah, they're just little things that you change. Sometimes sometimes you have to buy things to make those changes. Other times you don't. All right. Other questions? I gotta say, I really enjoy you guys because you all ask questions, and yeah, you actively participate. So I really enjoy that. It shows that you actually are getting something out of it, and you want to get something out of it. So I really appreciate that. All right. So the next topic is green computing. Now, green computing, people think of it as in two ways mainly. One is to make things more green with the computer, and the other um, is with the computer waste. So most people will focus on one of the two things. Well, how do I make the computer more green? How do I make it more efficient to use without, any issues? And then the other side of it again is waste. What do we do with this stuff when we throw it away? So I do actually want to play this video because I think it's the only way to truly do it justice. And when I looked at things yesterday, only about 4 of you had actually viewed it at that point in time. So I'm going to go ahead and take this time to do so as well. So hopefully everyone can hear. If you can't, let me know in the chat. All right, so I got a couple of people saying they can't hear it. So I'll let you guys play it at home, but pretty much I'll kind of explain a general of what's kind of going on with this in the video, because this is actually the you'll notice down here the Creative Commons license, so where all this information is coming from is actually from the company that made this video. So I think it's probably best for them to do it, but they look more at green computing as the waste, but with the emphasis on that there's the changes that we can make. So I'll give you a example of where this can come from. So how many of you have noticed that certain companies, when they make computers, they don't seem to last as long, but they're also more expensive? I'm sure some of you guys have seen that before. Or where a company creates a product, and within 2 years or maybe even less, usually it's on average about 3 years, they say that is no longer that product is obsolete. We won't support it anymore. You have to get this new thing. So I don't know if legally I can call out a certain company that does that a lot. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. Schmapple may do some things like that. You have a product, and then like 2 years later, it's, oh, you guys can't use that anymore. You have to use this new thing because we have all these features that were completely necessary for us to add. Well, what happens to your old device? A lot of times people think that, and sometimes people make an effort to try to do this, where you will donate it to an organization or something, and they take it to underprivileged youth that may use it for a bit, and then what happens when that breaks? Well, majority of the time, people don't dispose of things properly because they don't know how to. I know when I was remembering growing up with like batteries and stuff, it was always when I was younger, we would just throw them away, and then when I was in school, I remember learning about what was in a battery, and I was like, wait a minute, why do we throw these away? And then my instructor telling me then like, oh no, you don't throw batteries away, you dispose of them properly. And I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, oh, there's a place you could take these to dispose of them properly. Oh, okay. And what about the old TV that doesn't work anymore? Oh, there's a place you can take that to dispose of that properly. Well, some of that is true, and a lot of times when you take it to a place, they end up taking it to the dump anyway. So what's the difference? Well, when things like this go to the dump, they actually have a place where they try to filter through the trash, and they were taking majority of the electronic stuff to a place in China, city in China, and in that town is very very poor, and a lot of the citizens, what they do is they go through they go through the electronics and the devices they have there, and they're looking for like precious, not, I shouldn't say precious metals because that's an actual term, but they look for certain metals that are in there and elements that are in there, like tungsten, again, light bulbs and things like that, and they're like, oh, I can sell this. Or they look through and like, oh, this has gold in it, I can go melt this down. And when they do that, they're exposing themselves to a lot of chemical waste that's in that, a lot of toxic stuff. A lot of people don't know that there is radioactive material within the device, many of the electronic devices we have. Is it deadly to us? I mean, yes, and especially if you open up the casing in these devices and you don't handle things properly. For instance, like what was happening in that city in China where they discovered like these kids are piling up with diseases and stuff from, oh, my dad told me I should go smash this TV in so we could get a certain part. I know exactly what it looks like. I just got to smash the crap out of it. Well, that's not properly, opening up the device, and they're exposing themselves, and this continued on. Well, what's happening to the companies that got this, that created these, right? Well, a lot of those companies, if you look back years before, there was a long-standing period of time you would have a device. Like it may be 10, 20 years. I'm not even joking. Some people still have their old Macs, and they still work perfectly fine. Of course, they don't have as much memory as they have now, but they still work. And when I say still work, I'm not talking about like I have a laptop that is how old is that now? 8 years old. It takes forever to load up now. Forever. For it just for me to even get logged in. If I look at some computers that are a lot older than that, especially ones from the 90s, they load up just as fast. How does that make sense? Yeah, really, how does that make sense? It doesn't. what they realized, and this isn't just within this industry. This is in a lot. I have another example. I like to think of my a light bulb I had, my nightstand lamp growing up. That one light bulb lasted 17 years. And usually when I tell that people, they think that, oh, you must have never used it. I used it every night. Sometimes I would leave it on at night. Just like back when I would be afraid of what could be in the dark and stuff like that. I was a kid, but I would turn it on and leave it on. 17 years that one light bulb lasted. I remember when I replaced it, I didn't think anything of it until it was like less than a year later, I needed to replace the new bulb. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Something must be wrong with this lamp. Nothing was wrong with the lamp. The bulbs had changed, because if you're a company, you're selling light bulbs and you have light bulbs lasting 17 years, are you going to get any more customers? No. So you make it out of material that doesn't last as long, or products that don't last as long, and so that way you can sell more. Well, it makes sense, right? Same thing with the computers. You don't make them to last as long, because that means people can buy them. That's why some certain companies put a new product out, which was seemingly like every year or every 2 years, and then eventually they say the other one's obsolete. Well, is it obsolete because none of the parts are going to work anymore, or is it obsolete because the company wants it to be obsolete so that you can buy the new product? Well, it's the latter. So when it comes to being green, one thing that has happened, and a lot of countries have stepped up on this, they put markers on companies, like which they describe as taxes, saying that if you have this much product waste, you have to pay for it. And so what companies would do is, hey, your device is quote unquote obsolete now. How about you return it to us, and we'll give you a new one. And then they recycle those parts, or they say, hey, no, you can send that back into us. We'll upgrade it. So they take out one part that is bad instead of you throwing away the whole thing, and they replace it with what needs to be replaced and send it right back to you. So those are things that people have set forth in motion to make companies take responsibility for creating products that are bad on purpose. And so a lot of this talks about is that there's a bunch of bad stuff in your electronic devices. Not to scare you, not for you to be fearful about using the computer, but just so that you're aware about it. It's not enough to like flat out harm you unless you're, like I said, you're bashing them in and opening it up to see what's inside all the time, and you're not doing so properly. I'm not even talking about like the technicians that literally take these apart. I'm talking about people literally sometimes will just bash these in for parts, or to get certain metals and things that are in it, but they don't realize how harmful the things that they're exposing themselves to are harmful. And then also about the movement to have these stands where it's like you as a company have to pay for the fact you're making bad products. And then this is lessening the amount of junk that's going to that city in China. So that's one side of it. Well, the other part of it is too, well, we have all this computing power, really. So why is it that we are relying on getting all these devices to do things? For instance, I create, and like I told you guys, and there will be a point in time in this class where everyone has to have a Windows computer. And I told you that, oh, don't worry. If you don't have one, like if you don't have a Chromebook or a Mac and you can't get access to a Windows computer, don't worry about it. I will give you a virtual machine. There is literally a computer known as a server that is at a location, and on that server, I've created a bunch of computers. Just how you open this up and you see, or you guys can't see my screen here, but if I minimize this like this, here's you got the Windows start menu. You have the taskbar down here. If I want, I can add shortcuts here. You can get on the internet. All of that will be available on that virtual machine. So why do we need to make a bunch of hardware to hold those if there's one already available? And how often are people even on it? You can have schedules to switch off on that, right? So that more people are on it, and they can create multiple images and things like that. So why do we have to have so many laptops and things made? Why do I personally have to have four laptops on my person? Actually, I have a fifth, and plus I have one at the school. Why do I need 6 laptops? Honestly, why do I need 6 laptops? I really don't, but it actually ends up being cheaper for me to do so instead of going to use these virtual machines. Well, that doesn't really make much sense, right? Um, so, and one thing that you can do with green computing is to do that, have those virtual machines instead of having, buying multiple laptops. Because from that machine, I can actually access the computer and use it as if it's a computer from an iPhone. And it even will give directions on how to use the keyboard from the iPhone or use a mouse, but it's really your finger moving around the screen. How do you do that? Like it changes. And there are a lot of other ways to do that as well. You can build a computer for really cheap. It doesn't need to be made with as much expensive material, especially if you're just going to use it to get online and use one of those virtual machines. Just like take a look at Chromebooks. That's the reason they sell for so cheap. I remember at one point, and I still have it actually just to this day, and it still works. It has become obsolete because they said they will no longer support it, but I've had it for 8 years now. It was $80. How many of you have ever seen a computer for $80 that's brand new, right? It almost seems unheard of, and it still works. The battery life is about 11 hours still. It was more back in the day. It was about 14, but it's gone down to 11. Oh, poo-hoo. Most people's laptops last about 6 to 8 hours. I mean, that's still a long time. But can you imagine having a computer for 8 years that you use a lot and it still goes for 11 hours straight on just one full charge battery? And then you're able to do all your work and everything else you need on it. It has no issues. It seems unheard of. And actually, when we talk in this class more about technology, we'll talk about on standard is 3 to 5 years, then it's obsolete. But most of the time, that obsolescence is because the company and some of the software that you have on it have said that it is obsolete now. And sometimes there are things that like changes that they make to an operating system, and the new update of that operating system causes anything in the past to not be able to work anymore. And that's understandable, but operating systems actually at this point don't even get updated as much. I know Mac, the reason they call it Mac OS X, they have newer versions of the OS X, but OS X is supposed to be the end. Same thing with Windows 10. If you think about Roman numerals 10X, they're the same. So there's been a lot of talk for years that this would be their last one, and then they would just make new versions of the same thing because there's nothing else they needed to add or nothing major they needed to change. So, all right, that is green computing, and of course they give you if you ever go to their site, they give you give you more information about things that you can do to help make changes with this. So if it's something that you're interested in, I've had one student in the past over the last 3 years, I guess it's technically going in the third year, that was really interested in this, and she became a bit advocate for it. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go to Story of Stuff project, and if you look there, there's a lot of organizations that you can join and see about. So from this, I want you to describe at least one negative consequence of technology to the environment, and then offer a solution to that. I want you to look up what does it mean to be green and why is it important. So if you just type in like being green or something like that, I'll give you a hint. It has nothing to do with eating a bunch of vegetables, because that will be probably something that pops up. But it is about making a safer environment. So there are a lot of things that you can do to be quote unquote green, but now there are a lot of standards that companies have put together and organizations have put together to say that someone or some company is green. You can actually get certified in that as a person or as a company, and you get certain tax breaks and things for doing so. Some of you may even have heard about like electric cars are more green. So what does that really mean? That's what I'm asking there. And then why is it important? How does green computing affect you, your current job, or your future job, your future career? We're definitely going to be, most of the time, everything we do in this class, actually everything we do in this class, I want you to think about your future career and your job. Like, what is it that you want to do, and what are you doing currently? How does what we're learning about affect that, or how can you use it, or how will you use it in your future career? If it's important, if it's not, then it's just not. But I guarantee you most of the stuff is. What expectations do you foresee with the growing awareness of green computing? So the more that people learn about it and why is it important, what do you think is going to happen? So does anyone have any questions or anything they want to say about green computing? And then I definitely encourage you guys to go back and watch that video on your own. I'm sorry it wasn't be able to be heard through WebEx. Anyone? No one? Okay. All right. Can you guys hear me still? Just making sure.
We can hear you.
Good. Good. All right. So looks like some of you have already started applying. Good. Okay. And then here will be the big topic of the day, and I will open it up for this. After this, I'll open up for discussion for everything. Yeah. So ethics in technology. Well, let me ask you guys. What is ethics? What does that mean? So you can answer in the chat or unmute yourself. What is ethics and what does that mean?
Right and wrong?
All right. So that sounded like Damien. What's right or wrong? All right. That is actually a very solid answer. Very simple too. We have another response. You're judge a character when no one is watching. Ooh, I like that because a lot of times people think of, oh, well, it just matters what other people think of me. Well, when no one's watching, it matters to what you think as well. So that's why I really like Damien's answer, nice and simple. Right or wrong? So is what I'm doing right or is what I'm doing wrong? And that way it covers both. Is what I'm doing gonna look right in the eyes of the people around me, or is what I'm doing right in my own eyes? And it does matter a lot in both ways. And the reason for that is because even if you do something and in your heart of hearts you feel like it is definitely not a wrong thing to do, if everyone else around you thinks it is and they see it happen and you do it, they may not receive from you anymore and they may think that you're, at the extreme, they'll say you're evil because of something you did. Morality that determines a person's behavior. Yes, and because of how you perceive whether or not what you're doing is right or wrong, or how others perceive it, it will determine your behavior. Like if you have a child that you keep telling them, "Hey, stop doing that wrong. Oh, you're evil. You're bad. You're a bad kid. We raised a bad kid. How do we have such a bad son?" You keep doing that, what happens? They become bad because they don't know anything else. In their mind, they give up. They think I can't do anything right. I'll just keep being bad. On the other side of that, when you keep encouraging, and I keep saying kid, but that's anyone, but if you encourage someone over and over again, hey, you do these good things right, and you keep doing that, they start leaning more towards that, and they start doing things that are quote unquote right. And I say quote unquote, and it goes back to right or wrong, and what you think and what the other people think. Give you a great example would be like food. I always think of that the easy example. I don't know if any of you believe in the Bible or not, but in the Bible actually there's a couple of times where that example comes up with food, where people decide that oh, you can eat these, oh, you shouldn't eat that, and there's a point where it no longer matters, and one of the guys even goes as far as to tell people it doesn't matter to eat, but if the person that you're around or you're around a bunch of people that say you can't eat meat and you eat meat, you're gonna do harm to them. Or if you try to trick them into doing so or tell them, oh, you should do this, if they think it's wrong and you try to make them do it, what happens? They have done wrong, even though it may have no consequence to it whatsoever. It's a consequence to them. And so that becomes important because you shouldn't go out after pleasing people, but you do have to realize and think about how other people may view things or feel about things. Because sometimes it's just a matter of you explaining why it's not wrong and it's fine. Other times it's not walking a tightrope, it's walking in love. You think about, oh, well, this person is gonna be really hurt if or this group I'm with is gonna be really hurt if I eat this steak, even though it's really good to eat right now. I'm not gonna do it. I'll eat it later. And they understand I eat meat. I'm just not gonna do it in front of them because it's disgusting, or what was that? Oh yeah, well, when people were, there was a time where you couldn't walk in public in certain cities. I know in my city this is happening. If you walked in public holding hands with your spouse, like people would like think, oh, I can't believe they're doing that. Public affection, oh, it's gross. Well, it's not gross, right? You know, you love your wife. It'd be okay for you to hold her hand when you're walking down the street, but um, just because of the public like view of it, you doing so was like the worst thing you could do in their eyes. And so just so that you would be able, because you say you did that and you're trying to talk or start a business with someone, or you have some customers, they know you as, oh, you're the guy that holds hands with his wife. God, it's gross. Like, they're not going to want to do business with you. They're not going to receive from you. So there's a balance with that, and that's where ethics comes into play. It will determine how you behave, even when you're on your own by yourself, and especially though when you're around others. So, but that's ethics. And then but with this class being about IT and CIS, what's the ethics with technology? Well, it's still the same thing. What's right or wrong when doing things with technology? And a lot of times when we talk about this, the topic that comes up with people is, oh, hackers. Like, there are white hackers and there are black hackers, and then there's the green hackers. Well, what does that even mean? We have hackers that hack, but only for good reasons. We have hackers that hack for bad reasons, to steal information in order to do wrong things with it. Well, they're both stealing information, right? And then you have the green ones that do it for the right reasons, but they use it maliciously. You know, it's kind of like the whole Robin Hood thing. You know, I steal from the rich and then give it to the poor, but in doing so, I'm stealing and I may murder a couple of them in the process. Like, where are the lines? Well, that's where ethics will come into play. And there are a lot of people that love hacking and get into it so they can be white hackers. I'm only going to do it for the right reason. Well, I think everyone's in any of those instances, in their mind, it's the right reason. Like, everyone gives a justifiable reason for what they're doing. You know, oh, it makes me feel good. Oh, this is going to be best for my family. This is going to be best for these people. Like, it all comes down to ethics. There's more things that ethics plays part in when it comes to technology. You think about what we were just talking about with green computing. Are those companies being ethical when they say, you know, after 18 months, it's time for everyone to get a new device because the old one's obsolete? You know, is that ethical? What's the motivation behind that? So there's a little Google slide and thing here as well. Because as we talk about technology, we're looking more at cyber ethics, which is the study of moral, legal, and social issues involving cyber technology. So once we're dealing with the devices, dealing with using the internet, even, what are the ethics there? And this actually leads to a big thing that comes up when dealing with computers, and that is usually cyberbullying. So there's more stuff here that you guys can look at. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. So, yeah, I want to get to the cyberbullying part in a moment. But there are some rules here for ethical computing. Never use anyone else's login. Well, the other side of that, never give someone else your login, because you become responsible for it, even though they were the one to do it. For instance, you're at the school, and you know, like, it takes forever for an image to load up, and someone's like, I just need to print something really quick. That's it. I just need to print something. Can you just put this USB in and print this for me? Sure. You may even glance to see it. Oh, it's just a paper. They just need to print out that paper. That's all. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with this. Then the school calls you into an office, and there's these publishers and stuff here, and you're like, what's going on? It's like, we're here about such and such book, and you're like, what book is that? I've never heard of that. You printed it out. No, I didn't. Yeah, you did. We have proof of it right here. Your login, your information, There's the time in which you did it. We even have a camera stating that you were at the school and on that computer at that time. Well, you're screwed. Did you do anything wrong? No, but you let someone else do something with your account, and therefore you have to suffer the consequences of it. I know when I was in college, the big thing was LimeWire and Ready Player, uTorrent, BitTorrent, all of those things. Because it's perfectly fine for me to download or pirate this movie or songs or whatever. Well, it's up online, so it's got to be okay for me to do it. That doesn't make it okay to do it. Other things, do not bother. It's called trolling. I think that's funny how we use that term trolling now. Because all it is you're just molesting people online. Molesting is about bothering someone in a way they don't desire, not just the way that we usually use that term anymore. But yeah, you're just going out of the way in order to take advantage of someone. So don't bother other people in computer chat rooms. It doesn't matter what kind of chat room you are, or trying to egg them on and instigate them to be frustrated. Know the rules of where you work. So if you're on a school computer or if you're on a school function, for instance, like we're on WebEx right now, there are certain ways that you would behave or you would be expected to behave. And all of that is outlined in the student handbook, but it really does come down to ethics. And then sometimes your ethics will have to change. The question is, will you be willing to accept that? I mentioned earlier, it's about not just how you think, what you think is right or wrong, but also you're taking into account how the people around you and what they think is right or wrong. Because something that you may be completely okay with and is completely right in your heart, 100%, they may all see as wrong, and so there's a fine line there. I have much more slides in here too. When is it illegal? You're talking about the spreading of viruses, harassing someone online, buying and selling illegal stuff, if you're like downloading things illegally, pirating, using someone else's login with or without permission. So there's a lot of things here. And some of you at your jobs, they'll have, whenever you do an HR thing, they'll have like tests and like classes for you to take in regards to this, because this is such a big thing now, right? Everything deals with using a computer in some kind of way. There are tons of cyber rules out there depending on what jobs you have, and then at your own company or at your own job. You even have some probably in your own household. But you'll want to follow those guidelines that are listed there. I know in ours we have what's called like a human firewall training. That's one of the like 3 that we do. But the human firewall is all about you protecting the school on the web and with computers. What do you do to prevent things from happening? For instance, like letting someone use your computer when you're logged in already, giving out your information, things like that. Or if you see someone doing it, or like a USB. We're not at school. I usually show an example of this from the school, but now you can actually, you can buy these USBs that you just put it in a computer and it records keystrokes. And so people were doing that at school to get people's passwords. They would leave it in and then come out later. Oh, I accidentally left my USB. So if you're ever at a school and you're not logged in yet, I always check the back to see if there is a USB already plugged in. Because if there is, I just unplug it. But what it does is it literally is just reading your keystrokes, and then now they have your login, and they know how you logged in, so they have the information. They know what keys you pressed and everything. So it's very important to just be aware of those things. And those are small things, right? How long does it take for you to check the back to make sure there's no USBs plugged in? No time at all. Or someone said, "Hey, anyone find a USB around here?" And then you just hand them a USB you found. How do you know it's theirs, right? Yeah, there's a lot of things. And if someone gives you a USB, you want to be very careful about that as well. I've seen that happen with a student. They got a virus because they just picked up a USB that they found on the counter, and they needed one real quick. And they just plugged it in, and then next thing you know, they had a virus because there was corrupted file on it. So someone just literally maliciously just left it there on purpose. There's exactly that one file on it. So. So cyberbullying, this is a major issue going on in our time today, especially with social media. I guess technically since social media came to be, because I think of social media as more than just the MySpace, Facebook, and I say MySpace just because that was one of the first ones, not because that's what I use. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikToks, all of that. Is social media, but I think back to the chat rooms that we had before that, even where people were making fun of each other, or they were soliciting. They were doing things they shouldn't do online, or asking people to do certain things, and no one really knew how old anyone was on the other side, and things like that. And there were some messed up things that were said and done, even back then. But it's become more aware now because it's gone as far as the people that are being bullied, they kill themselves, which again was something that happened before. But when they do so, they use social media to talk about the fact that they're going to kill themselves. And honestly, that's why this has become such a big thing. I mean, I'm thankful that more people are aware about it. I do personally do not like the fact that that was how we had to find out about it, because these things should have been talked about before. A lot of people don't have the courage to do so because the only way to communicate is through social media. I know of many students that have been bullied, and I'm not talking about college students, but just in my past from when I was a high school teacher as well, that were bullied online, and they expected someone to reach out and help them, but people didn't know. The people that would have helped them weren't on those social media sites, or they weren't friends with them on Facebook and things like that. And so the signs and things that they should have looked for, they weren't able to notice because nowadays, well, I want to say before it seemed like people weren't always their true selves online. Now it seems like people are more of their true selves online than they are in reality, if that makes sense. And so everyone doesn't know what's going on. Like, for instance, parents don't know what's going on with their kids online, even if they're like completely on top of it, like they watch their accounts and everything. There's a kid that I used to tutor who was bullied a lot online, but his mom was like on everything. So, and like, I mean, everything. She has account information for everything. So she should have known, right? Well, because of how much pressure she put on wanting to know, because she cared, he decided to go out the way to make secret stuff so that she wouldn't know. And on those secret accounts, that's where he was bullied and hurt. So I usually play this video in class to a point, but I'll let you guys watch it on your own. So ethics in technology, cyberbullying. So what exactly is cyber ethics? How is it different from and similar to computer ethics? So think about this very carefully. Cyber, when you're online, computer, the actual use of the actual device. Information ethics, so if you know more, the information that you know, and then using the internet. So provide at least one example of just cyber ethics will be fine. You can go as far as providing one for all 3 or 4 if you want. How does cyber ethics relate to your personal life? So everyone should have something to say there because everyone is online in some capacity, right? Just look at us being in class. Define and provide examples of cyberbullying. There's a video, like I said right before that, I gave an example with the students being made fun of and stuff with the videos, and then a lot of them have committed suicide afterwards. How do you think cyberbullying has changed and will change over time? What has caused or was the cause of this? I mentioned social media. There may be some other things that you all come up with. I would love to see if someone gives a different answer besides social media to this. Just so I just would love to see something else. Not because I think there is something else or not. I would just love to see a deeper dive into why someone may think that may be happening. Maybe you all have some personal experiences that you don't have to share in regards to being cyberbullied or being a cyberbully, but maybe you can just kind of think about other things that may cause it to happen on either one of those sides. Moving forward, would you enact harsher laws on cyberbullying? Why or why not? Majority of the time when this question is asked in class, There's a ton of things that people say about harsher rules. I never have seen anyone say anything about less harsh rules. But again, another thing I would love to see, because it is possible to when you give people more freedom, that things don't happen as much. That there's a lot of statistics to back that up, or at least to see a correlation between that. So looks like some of you or one of you has already answered this question. But at this time, I normally would ask you guys to discuss ergonomics, green computing, and ethics. So I'm gonna open it up for questions. You can unmute yourself, or you can type your question in the chat. And we're discussing ethics, green computing, and ergonomics. So, anyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cyber ethics, like regular ethics, or
You say that again?
well, is cyber ethics the same as regular ethics, or do they have the same morals?
So cyber ethics would be underneath ethics. So ethics would just be overall. It's just like it's a particular part of ethics.
Okay.
So like work ethic is different from your job ethic, because work ethic is about how you work. The other one is about where you're working. So there's a difference, but they all fall underneath ethics.
Okay.
Great question. Okay, I have a question in for you guys. How would you use this at your future career? So state where your career is, and then talk about how you would use some of what we've talked about so far with regards to ergonomics, ethics, particularly we can get into cyber ethics, and green computing. How would you use this at your job? Anyone?
To keep client information safe.
Keep client information safe. Okay. What kind of job are you looking to have, Damien?
To be a lawyer in workers' comp or criminal justice.
All right. So you definitely have to keep client information safe, right? Everything has to stay confidential. So yeah, it's a great thing. So, and in regards to cyber ethics, maybe you'll have someone working underneath you as a lawyer, an assistant or a legal aid or something, or you may have to work on a team. You have to be careful on what those people do and say, and what maybe even what they know, and what information you share with them. Because there's a lot of times that I give you guys an example when it comes to teaching, because in a similar situation ish, where you are legally allowed to discuss things if it is for the betterment of the person you're discussing. So two instructors could talk to one another about student grades if it was to help the student. Like if someone was not doing well in my class and I know they're in someone else's class, I may ask how are they doing in their class, so I could see if it's an overall thing or is it just in my class. Well, let's say a student finds out about that. Is that right to do? Or is it wrong to do? Let's take that same situation. If I was to email information about, say, a student's contact info, like let's say a student hasn't shown up for a class in weeks, not my class, they've shown up all the time for my class. They've even given me permission to text them or call if I needed to. But another instructor's like, man, I have not been able to reach the student. I've been calling them for weeks. They haven't come to class for 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't know what's going on with them. I just want to make sure they're okay. And then I were to email that instructor that student's information. Is that okay? Anyone have any thoughts on that, of whether it is okay or not?
I don't think it's all right because it's private information. And like maybe you could reach out personally, but you can't give that information to the other teacher.
So he says it because it's private information, I can't give that out. Now legally, like I said, I can, but is it ethical? And I would agree with what he just said. And that's just my opinion. I would not do something like that. I would try to reach out on my own first to say, hey, this instructor's been trying to reach out to you. Could you contact them? Just so they can know you're okay at least. And then I would probably try my best. I personally, again, would try my best to stay out of it after that because I don't need to know what's going on with that person in that other class because it's not my business. Even if I really care about the student, you have to be very careful of that stuff. Yeah, I agree with that. And I know people that would completely disagree too. And I'm not going to say they're wrong either because again, they legally have a right to do that. But is it ethical? So that goes back to what was mentioned earlier. Ethics is about right or wrong. It could be what you think. We also have to keep in mind what others think too, because of how it'll be viewed. Anyone else have some scenarios that they have questions about, maybe?
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Aren't computer ethics and internet ethics kind of the same?
Kinda, yeah, because they both have to deal with computer. Because the only way you're gonna get on the internet is through a computer or a computing device. But computer ethics is more about how you actually use the actual machine.
Okay.
Yeah, internet is how you use the internet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have another thing. I want to get into game design and programming for ergonomics, making options for people that are colorblind, so they could see the game better. That's great. I've actually never thought about that. I know that when I was much younger, I was in elementary school. There was a discussion about making some changes to certain signs. It was a stop sign. One of the yield no, it wasn't a yield sign, it was a yellow sign, so one of like the constructions or crossing signs. And then someone mentioned like the traffic light, and we were kids, we were laughing at it. But we actually had someone in our class that was colorblind, and we were like, because we didn't, I guess we didn't really understand like people see, if they see a color they see it differently. And I'll never forget when my friend told me that it's not that big of a deal until you actually realize that that color is not what you think it is. And then he said as he moved on, he began to distinguish what was red. Because like if you show someone something and you say it's red over and over again, they don't see red how if someone's red like red green colorblind, they don't see it the same. And some of you probably have colorblindness that you don't even know about, or that you do know about, but they don't see red the same, but they still know it's red because they've been taught that something's red. But I do like the idea of making things more comfortable for people when it comes to games. I don't know if any of you heard about the different types of lighting that's on the back end of TVs, and how it helps keep you awake, and it does some other things to your brain as well. So the colors that go in front of that, when they come off, they can help you stay alert, and things like that. So there are some things that you can make changes to that. Thanks for sharing that. All right. All right. Is there anyone else have anything else to add? Oh, one other thing actually I'll add, in regards to the game design thing. I was watching a video on this a couple weeks ago where someone was making fun of how like when fighting games you have the combos that you have to press all these buttons and do all these weird things, and sometimes it hurts. Like, but you as a player, you're trying to get some achievement by, I don't know, doing all the fatalities in Mortal Kombat or something, and you have to press all these sequence of buttons, and people get injured doing so. Actually a lot. And there's this talk of why don't game designs change this? And actually, you do see over time that it got more difficult to do certain combos, and it has actually gotten easier. And that was kind of a part of it because not students, but people were getting frustrated at these games and not wanting to play them as much because they could never unlock everything because of what they had to do. So when you get into game designing and programming, make sure you keep things simple, to a degree. Okay. All right. Well, we have about 4 minutes left, so you guys have 3 things that you guys can go through as a reflection on ergonomics, green computing, and on ethics. So on Wednesday, we'll talk about intellectual property rights, and we will also talk about information security. So just to kind of give you a prelude with intellectual property rights, think about, is it okay for you to, just go online and grab something? Kind of we talked about earlier, the like LimeWire and BitTorrent and stuff, people downloading music and pirating movies and things like that. Well, it's already up there online, so why can't I get it, right? But is that really okay to do? For that, it may be easier for people to say no because it is against the law. But what if you're writing a paper and you see that this information that's out here is just perfect, is written great, and you read through it and you copy and paste it in, and then you make a couple of changes here or there, and you say you're good. Like every 7 words. That's a good standard. Every 7 words. Is that okay? Or if you get a quote from someone and you even say, "Oh, this is a quote from someone," you just put it in your paper, but you don't tell who it is or where you got it from. Is that okay? What if you're doing a presentation for school and you just get a picture offline? Is that okay to use that picture even in the presentation? Is it okay to just, there's a YouTube video that discusses the thing we're talking about. Is it okay to add that in? Is it okay to show that? Well, it's on YouTube, right? Anyone can look at it anytime. It's gotta be okay, right? So we're gonna look at intellectual property rights and who owns things. I'll leave you guys with a question, and I hope one of you, at least one of you, remembers to remind me to ask this again at the beginning. When you take a picture of something, who owns the picture? What about if an animal took or made the picture, and it's your pet? Who owns it? What if it's not your pet? It was some kind of zoo animal. Who owns it? So if you take a picture of something, or it could even be someone. Like if I took a picture of you all as a class, who owns that picture? Right? So those are some questions to think about. Some of you may look up some stuff, and a lot of you will have a lot of opinions. I know that. So that's what we'll begin talking about on Wednesday. So, and then another thing, information security. Think about how can you be safe. We just talked about ethics, but what can you do to be safe when using a computer? How do you keep your information safe? Like when you say you're going to be a lawyer, or you're going into criminal justice. Well, how do you keep that information confidential and safe? Right. So I think we'll wrap things up there. I know some of you said you had some questions for after class, so I will see you guys. I'll stop recording here. I will see you